Good morning. Thank you. Welcome to Unitarian Universalist Church West here in Brookfield, Wisconsin. Whatever moved you to join us this morning, in person or virtually, thank you for being here together. Welcome, each of you. Welcome. We offer gratitude for the privilege of living and gathering on traditional territory, inhabited at various times by the native peoples of the 7 council fires, Ho-Chunk, Kickapoo, Potawatomi, Menominee, Peoria, and Miami nations. So much of the history of this land has been erased or ignored. Those of us who are settlers and newcomers are beholden to learn that history and engage in the work of reconciliation and reparation. As a welcoming congregation to gay, lesbian, transgender, bisexual, and queer plus peoples, we continue to address ongoing homophobia, violence, and unfair legislation targeting them. As an anti-racist faith community, we also acknowledge that racism throughout our society continues to lead to the violent deaths and oppression of Jews, Black, and Indigenous peoples, and other people of color. May we engage in the struggle to dismantle white supremacy culture in our hearts, in our community, and in our world. I am Kathy White, a member of your Board of Trustees. My pronouns are she and her. Happy Father's Day to all dads and those who father and mentor others. And a shout out of pride and welcome to my LGBTQ plus community as we celebrate Pride Month. This congregation expands these walls to those who are joining us virtually. Wherever you are right now, whatever your age or color, whatever your gender identity, whatever your chosen beliefs, you are welcome here. Whoever you are and from wherever you come, whomever you love, however you define family, even if it's chosen family, you are welcome here. The identities you hold, how you want to be called, and your pronouns are respected and welcome here. Whatever the color of your skin, the language your grandparents spoke, the cultures that live in your being, the abilities and disabilities you hold, we welcome you. Whatever you believe, whatever your theology, prayer, or sacrament, even if none at all, we welcome you. We unite in UU principles. We are a community of communities, spiritual seekers, taking action called on by our work for justice, united in covenant and the spirit of love. We welcome all of you. And here's a bit of housekeeping. This is a multi-generational community, and there are a variety of ways for all ages to participate. Our nursery is open after the time for all ages. Those who wish are invited to go to their classes. And always all ages are welcome here in the sanctuary. So there is a worship exploration table, kind of empty today, where there are some activities for those who choose to stay here. If you're a newcomer here, I hope you picked up a flyer on the way in that tells you all about what to expect and how to connect. We'd love to have you fill out the welcome side of the yellow paper you received when you entered, and hope to see you at the newcomers table in the community room after the service. And if you're online and want more information, please email us at visitor@uucw.org. There will be time in the service today for spoken joys and concerns. All of you out there in virtual land can participate by sending a text to Reverend Yulin. Note that every Sunday there are large print orders of service and song sheets available, as well as hearing assist devices. Ask an usher for assistance with these. There's a time for coffee, tea, and conversation for everyone following the service. We know that not every space or noise level suits everyone, so find a comfortable place to hang out. Here in the community room, in the library, and then challenge yourself to talk to someone you've not yet met. Let's continue to build community together. I want to highlight a couple things. And you have a lot of announcements to look at yourself, and please take home and read. But next Sunday is a watch party service. We'll gather here at the usual time to watch the General Assembly service. Always a great experience. There'll be popcorn and the opportunity to stay for a pizza lunch following. Reverend Euland's last Sunday with us is June 30th. I know. Agreed. The night before, there'll be a party to celebrate all that we've done and been together. Check out the printed announcements for more information. With all that now shared and received, let's settle in for this time that we've set aside just to be here together. Please center yourself and welcome the Spirit.
Our theme for June is the gift of renewal. And today we're exploring being present to the present and hoping that such a practice might renew our energy and our spirits. Our opening words are those of Gretchen Haley, surrender to this life. Give up the fight for some other moment, some other life than here and now. Give up the longing for some other world, the wishing for other choices to make, other songs to sing, other bodies, other ages, other countries, other stakes. Purge the past, forgive the future, for each come too soon. Surrender only to this life, this day, this hour, not because it does not constantly break your heart, but because it also beckons with beauty, startles with delight, if only we keep waking up. This is the gift we have been given, these body clothes, this heartbreak, this pulse, this breath, this light, these friends, this hope. Here we remember ourselves, all a part of all of it together, giving thanks together. So come, let us worship. Welcome to this very present moment where we intentionally journey through life together with deep appreciation for what is. And let's begin by singing. Sia Hamba is a spirited celebration of the moment and of how we might choose to move through life. You'll find it at number 1030 in the Teal hymnal. We're going to do Sia Hamba, which is the Zulu, then marching, then singing, then dancing. And so we're skipping walking. Sia Hamba, marching, singing, dancing, and then we'll conclude with Spanish, with the words are at the bottom of the second page. So let's sing. Now we'll light our chalice.
Day, at the moment, it's written for a star rock, perhaps will elicit rights. Take us to Mass, there's Catholic Church. I loved the hymns and the smells, and sermons were kind of a bore. So I would occupy myself by counting the cuts and scrapes and bruises on my father's hands. I'm an electrician and a farmer, working with his hands from before the sun came up until long after it went down. So every week I would take his large hands and my little ones, turning them over, examining, discovering new bruises, and keeping track of the healing of the old ones. I would count the wounds and whisper the tally in his ear. I loved that he let me hold and investigate his hands in this way, snuggled up next to him in the pew, in the quiet of the church, with just the priest's voice in the background, having two jobs that demanded his attention. My dad didn't always have time for such intimacies, except on Sunday morning. And I took pride in those wounds. It was evidence of how hard my dad worked to take care of his family. He was a man who was often uncomfortable with expressing affection, but I could see in those hands how much he loved me. Was my dad a good dad? Was he there for me when I needed him? Did he protect me and provide for me? Did he care about me? When I ask myself those questions, I think of his hands. I invite those joining us online to contribute a light to our communal flame and ask that you all read our chalice lighting words with me. We dedicate the lighting of our chalice today in honor of the hands of our fathers, for all the ways and all the hard work to show us we are loved.
So you'll notice that we're doing things a little differently today. And imagining that there might be people of many different ages here today, we wanted them to all be able to share in our joys and concerns. So we're going to do it before the story. Since many of you are honoring your fathers today, I'd like to begin with a prayer written by Amy Jones, a prayer for fathers. In this prayer, she acknowledges that our relationships with our fathers are not all happy ones or safe ones, and yet we pray for them all. She writes, "Today is Father's Day, so we take this moment to hold space for all that may mean to us. We hold love for those who have lost fathers and for those fathers who have lost children. We acknowledge and hold non-binary, transgender, and cisgender dads in families made up of two dads, foster and adoptive dads, and single dads. We hold and work to lift up all fathers of color and those fathers raising children of color. We hold fathers kept apart from their children by borders and war. We hold fathers and children who have lost connection, children who have been disowned or abandoned by their fathers, and the father figures who step in. We hold those longing to become fathers. We hold those who may be full of questions about their biological fathers. Most important, we hold and thank the dads, the papas, the daddies, and all who show up every day to give their all to the children who need them. Human relations are complicated. These days of recognition are complex. Please take a moment to breathe in what serves you and breathe out that which does not. And I light this candle for all the fathers in our lives. And I invite you to speak aloud the name of someone you would like to remember and or pray for today. Paul, Derek, John. Now in a moment, you're invited to come to this mic to share your sads or your happies, your roses or your thorns, something of your life's journey. What you share aloud is only heard by those gathered at the present time. You can always choose to share in writing via that yellow slip you received or the QR code in the order of service. And then you can ask how you'd like that to be shared. It can go in the e-news, it can be spoken next Sunday, it can go to our lay pastoral care team or just to me. And now if you have something you'd like to share, you can come to either side and take turns. If you wish to remain seated, an usher is standing ready to bring you a mic, so just raise your hand. And after each sharing, I'll light a candle and ask you all to respond with me. We hold you in love. So, let's pause, breathe, hold all that's been shared, and all that remains in the silent sanctuaries of our hearts. Amen. And now it's time for a story, and Dave's going to tell it.
I am Dave Cicero, Director of Lifespan Religious Education here at UUCW, and my pronouns are he and his. So what does it mean to be present? There's actually a book with that title on the worship exploration table, along with one about Juneteenth, so all ages are welcome there at any point. But another answer to that question may be found in the story that we'll be sharing with you today. That is The Three Questions by John Muth, published by Scholastics Press. This is actually based on a story originally by Leo Tolstoy. There was once a boy named Nikolai who sometimes felt uncertain about the right way to act. I want to be a good person, he told his friends, but I don't always know the best way to do that. Well, Nikolai's friend wanted to help him. If I could find the answers to my three questions, Nikolai continues, then I would always know what to do. Number one, when is the best time to do things? Number two, who is the most important one? And number three, what is the right thing to do? Well, Nikolai's friends considered his questions, and they had suggestions for him. Suggestions that made sense if you're a heron, or a monkey, or a dog. Now, Nikolai loved his friends, and he knew they were all trying their best to help him answer his questions, but their answers didn't seem quite right. So an idea came to him. I know, he thought, I will ask Leo the turtle. He has lived for a very long time, and surely he will know the answers that I'm looking for. So Nikolai hiked high up into the mountains where the old turtle lived all alone. When he arrived, he found Leo digging a garden. Now, the turtle was old. Digging was hard for him. I have 3 questions, and I came to ask for help, Nikolai said. Number 1, when is the best time to do things? Number 2, who is the most important one? And number 3, what is the right thing to do? Leo listened carefully, but only smiled, then went on with his digging. You must be tired, Nikolai said at last. Here, let me help you. And because it was easier for a young boy to dig than it was for an old turtle, Nikolai kept on digging until all the rows were finished. But as he finished, the wind blew wildly and rain burst from darkened clouds. As they moved towards the cottage for shelter, Nikolai heard a cry for help. Running down the path, he found a panda whose leg had been injured by a fallen tree. Carefully, Nikolai carried her into Leo's house and made a splint for her leg with a stick of bamboo. The storm raged on, banging at the doors and windows. Then the panda woke up. "Where am I?" she said. "And where is my child?" Well, the boy ran out of the cottage and down the path. The roar of the storm was deafening. Pushing aside the howling wind and drenching rain, he ran further into the forest. There, he found the panda's child, cold and shivering on the ground. The little panda was wet and scared, but alive. Nikolai carried her inside and made her warm and dry. Then he laid her in her mother's arms. Leo smiled when he saw what the boy had done. The next morning, the sun was warm, the birds sang, and all was well with the world. The panda's leg was healing nicely, and she thanked Nikolai for saving her and her baby. Nikolai's friends arrived to make sure everyone was all right, and Nikolai felt great peace within himself. He had wonderful friends, and he had saved the panda and her child, but he had not found the answers to his 3 questions. Do you remember what those were? Number 1, when is the right time to do things? 2, who is the most important one? And 3, what is the right thing to do? Well, the old turtle looked at the boy. "But your questions have been answered," he said. "They have?" asked the boy. "Yes, yesterday, if you had not stayed to help me dig my garden, you wouldn't have heard the panda's cries for help. Therefore, the most important time was the time you spent digging. The most important one at that moment was me, and the most important thing to do was to help me with the garden. And later, when you found the panda, the most important time was the time you spent mending her leg and finding the child. The most important ones were the panda and her baby, and the most important thing to do was to take care of them and make them safe. Remember then that there is only one important time, and that time is now. The most important one is always the one you are with, and the most important thing to do is to do good for the one who is standing at your side. For these, my dear boy, are the answers to what is most important in this world. This is why we are here." And that is the end. Seeing no children today, we're going to skip the recessional, I think. So.
Am I in the right camera spot? I didn't check that. Yeah, okay, thanks. So a few weeks ago, we had a new member ceremony, but Debbie Giglio, did I say that right? Giglio, thank you, who is really ready to become a member here at UUCW, wasn't able to be here. And so today it's our pleasure to welcome and celebrate her choice to become a member, and Ann Deal is here to help us lead in that welcome, help lead us in that welcome.
Get in the right spot with you. The decision to join this church is an important one, for it indicates our desire to make a change in how we lead our lives. It means we are members of a community that dreams together, works together, laughs together, and learns together. So Deb, will you please come forward?
So Deb, I know that you have been part of other UU communities, so you know what it means to be part of a liberal religious community that believes in accepting differences with love. You become here part of a community that believes it's important to step up and stand up for the values of religious freedom and justice. And by making this choice, you help keep liberal religion fresh and alive.
Our church and its activities, as you know, are open to everyone. But when you join officially, you gain precious and important rights. You gain the right to vote in our congregation's decisions. You gain a voice in shaping our future and the authority to become a leader among us. And your choice to become a member has an impact on every member here, reminding them, all of you, of your own decision, however long ago, to become a member of UUCW. In this ceremony, every member here recommits themselves to the work of this church.
We do expect all of our members to bring their ideas and energy to the table, for each new person brings so much to our shared ministry. So Deb, the gift of your mind and your spirit will help keep this community flexible and strong. The beauty of your heart and your compassion will help us grow in diversity and grace. And your knowledge and support will help us rise to the challenges of our changing world. And we're so glad that you are with us.
And so Deb, I will invite you now to sign our membership book as a symbol of your commitment to the community and to our covenant.
Do you want me to hold the mic?
And I have a small gift for you as well.
And now, will those members present please rise in body and/or spirit to join in sharing the words of covenant with this new member? And we'll begin with words from Deb.
I enter this faith with hope and possibility in my heart, pledging to participate in and support the ministries of this church. I covenant to remain true to the spirit of love that flows through this church and guides us all. I seek your welcome as I join you in this faith.
And now the congregational response. We welcome you as once we were welcomed ourselves. We seek to be open and inclusive, respecting your inherent dignity, your ideas, and your vision, in times when it's easy and in times when it's difficult. We will not always live up to our ideals, and when we fall short, we invite you to stay in relationship with us and help us more fully bring alive the spirit of love. We welcome you as an equal member of this congregation, of this faith, and of our shared spiritual journey. And after the service, I encourage you all to make a special point to greet and welcome Deb. So please join me in a round of applause of welcome her.
Good morning, I'm Ann Heitkamp. My pronouns are she and her. Moments when we welcome new members are precious and sweet. Learning to pay attention to each moment is something that Mary Oliver often captured so beautifully in her poetry. So listen to this one, which is a likely favorite of many of you, The Summer Day. Who made the world? Who made the swan and the black bear? Who made the grasshopper? This grasshopper, this one who is flung out of the grass and who is eating sugar out of my hand, who is moving her jaws back and forth instead of up and down, who is gazing around with her enormous and complicated eyes, who now lifts her pale forearms and thoroughly washes her face. Now she snaps her wings open and floats away. I don't know exactly what a prayer is. I do know how to pay attention, how to fall down into the grass, how to kneel down in the grass, how to be idle and blessed, how to stroll through the fields, which is what I have been doing all day. Tell me, what else should I have done?
Rain, besides being our weather conditions today, is also an acronym for a tool designed to practice mindfulness and compassion. It was created by Buddhist teacher, psychologist, and author Tara Brach as a way of moving into a state of mindfulness, a state of peace with what is. So I invite you to join me in a guided meditation as I introduce you to the steps of rain. Excuse me. To begin, I invite you to simply take a couple of deep breaths. Notice how that feels in your body. If there are any places of tightness or tension, I invite you to breathe spaciousness into those places. And as you exhale, let go of that which is distracting you or not serving you. I invite you to settle into this moment. It's not uncommon, though, to find surrendering oneself to the here and now challenging. If you're finding it difficult to let go of something from your past or imagining something from your future, imagine instead yourself at the edge of a river. And place that thing that's distracting your mind onto a leaf that's drifting by. And just let it float on. Occasionally, a difficult situation persists. And this rain process is actually a good way to approach the situation. And think about it in the present moment. So another breath and we'll begin. The R in rain is for recognize. Recognize what is happening in that difficult situation or just right here, right now. Recognition is seeing what is true in this situation. You can awaken this recognition by asking yourself, what is happening inside me right now? Or as I ponder that situation. Try to listen to the answer with a kind and a receptive way to your body and your heart. The A stands for allow. Allow life to be just as it is. Allow and accept whatever thoughts, emotions, or sensations that arise to simply be as they are. If you notice that you're feeling resistance or aversion to an unfavorable circumstance or discomfort in the silence, just notice that with compassion. Whatever feelings arise, you may wish to recognize and allow them by whispering, yes, or this too. Simply notice what is true without judgment. This gentle allowing can often begin to soften any harsh edges. The I stands for investigate with interest and care. You may wish to explore what you're experiencing more closely by inquiring, how am I feeling this in my body right now? What most wants my attention or my acceptance at this time? With the utmost of gentleness, simply pay attention and acknowledge whatever responses arise within you. The N in RAIN stands for nurture with self-compassion. Intentionally nurturing our inner life awakens our sense of loving kindness. You may wish to place your hand over your heart or another gesture of self-care and kindness. Now take a moment to allow yourself to rest in this tender space of natural self-awareness. This awareness is the innermost truth of what you are. I invite each of you to take a couple more deep breaths here. These RAIN techniques can be applied at any time and to any circumstances that unfold in our lives as we make it a point to recognize, allow, investigate, and nurture. We can change our habitual ways of responding and use these to cultivate an open, loving heart. They can also help us cultivate spiritual resilience to better cope with any challenges that arise in our lives.
And so I invite you to sing number 1009, Meditation on Breathing. There's 3 parts to this song. We're going to focus really on only 2. If you feel like or you know the third part, you're welcome to do it. But for the rest of us, I'll sing or Ruben's going to do the drone, the breathe in, breathe out, and I assume we'll start with that. And then I will sing the when I breathe in peace. So you can sing along with whichever part you want or go back and forth. And if you'd like, you're invited to rise in body and or spirit. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love in. I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. Be seated.
These words, written by Christine Slocum, begin with a few lines by Mary Oliver's "It Was Easy." In this, Slocum speaks of necessary stillness. As Mary Oliver wrote, "Sometimes I need only to stand where I am to be blessed." We can be many things. Friday afternoon, we were traffic, car traffic. You usually find both of us on bicycles to commute, but work took us too far that day. My colleague lives on the way, so I offered to drive. At day's end, we were departing downtown. Theoretically, we were heading towards his house. In practice, we lingered on the same block, advancing 1 car length per light change. It felt like the street was doing an award-winning performance of a parking lot. I had tried to bypass the highways by cutting through downtown, but the street was closed and the traffic lights were out of sync. It took time. No, there wasn't a single indication of frustration in my colleague's body, words, or demeanor. I didn't have to be elsewhere for a while, and conversation came easily. I do enjoy his companionship. Yet at the same time, I felt guilty for how long it was taking. Reflecting on the experience, I realized that I wasn't impatient for impatience' sake. It was more that I feel almost a moral obligation towards advancement. It's all progress, improvement, efficiency, the next thing. It's capitalism, it's white supremacy. It's a deeply and viscerally internalized cultural ethic towards forward momentum. It permeates my entire perspective. And my discomfort was the dissonance of failing to meet that expectation. For there I am, present in necessary stillness, and my body tingles with a version of the same anxiety I feel when I sense my career is stagnating or I'm failing to become better in all the ways our society suggests that we should. Miles per hour or milestones per lifetime, it all feels the same. When I could be present in the moment, sitting in the car, relaxing my sense of obligation towards speed, that let me recognize the true experience. Good company and conversation. For it's connection that makes life rich. This mindset towards progress sets me up to miss it. What other circumstances am I failing to recognize when I don't embrace the necessary stillness? Where else am I failing to see that the need to exist in the moment is a required part of whatever journey I'm taking? When else am I failing to understand that maybe life doesn't have to be ever upward in order to be well lived? And Slocum ends her reflection with these prayerful words. May patience teach us presence, and may present show us all of the blessings of this moment, and keep our attention on what truly matters.
May we be taught to keep our attention on what truly matters. It's a tricky thing, isn't it, to know what truly matters? I have a very clear picture in my mind of my father's hands. Though as a minister, he had a white-collar job. He grew up on a farm, and he was always tinkering with things, fixing them, mending them, cutting, assembling, gluing, and he would often come to the dinner table with cuts on his hand and bloody knuckles. And every time, over and over, aghast, I would say, "Dad, what did you do to your hand?" And he would look at them and see the scrapes and cuts for what appeared to be the first time. "Oh, I don't know," he said, "I must have bumped it somehow." I couldn't take my eyes off his beat-up hands, wondering how it could be that someone could hurt themselves like this and not notice. And I didn't know whether to admire his ability to be so oblivious of his body or to be concerned. Clearly, he had been focused on something that mattered to him, so much that he didn't even notice being cut or bruised. He was attentive to something, but not to his body. This way of being surely could not be called an embodied or mindful presence. And perhaps it's something like the story of being stuck in traffic that Lori told. We can be so focused on something, like time or deadlines or expectations or finishing projects, and however important those things are, they're not truly the now, not truly the present. And maybe that means those things don't truly matter. But it sure is hard to be convinced of that. Spiritual author Dennis Merritt Jones speaks of connecting with our bodies through the lens of mindfulness this way. He says, "The irony is our body can't be any other place than in the present moment. But far too often, our mind is elsewhere. And mindfulness is the practice of calling the thinking mind back to where the body is, wherein the two become as one in the present moment," unquote. And the embodied practice that Dave led us through is an example of mindfulness practice. That is, it's an intentional way of connecting or aligning our minds with what we're holding and feeling in our bodies in the present moment. And living in the present tense or form, it's kind of like becoming human gerunds, I think, becoming particular and present just by being. Well, why do this? Many teachers tell us that dwelling on the past or being anxious about the future is the cause of much of the anxiety and stress in our lives. And if we can learn to stay more present, we can eliminate much of this stress or fear or worry. And they tell us that being fully present to the moment we're in is the only way to fully experience beauty or joy or surprise or a grasshopper or so many of the gifts that the world has to offer us. And it's also the best way to connect authentically with others, to allow their reality and our own to interact, to impact, to exist freely. And yes, it can also mean that we are fully present to pain and suffering. But because we're in the moment, it's easier to acknowledge that these things are as impermanent and fleeting as is the present, and they lose some of their weight. Now, frankly, while I've made huge progress in my life toward becoming more embodied and more present, I am a really long way from becoming a bodhisattva. I am way too driven by obligations and tasks and deadlines, and not all that good at stillness, or even finding stillness necessary. Still, I have to say that it was exactly my exhaustion from living in that way that led me into ministry. I was burnt out. I can remember the exact moment and exactly where I was when I first came across this quote from Henry David Thoreau's Walden. "I went to the woods because I wished to live deliberately, to front only the essential facts of life and see if I could not learn what it had to teach, and not when I came to die, discover that I had not lived. I did not wish to live what was not life. Living is so dear. Nor did I wish to practice resignation unless it was quite necessary. I wanted to live deep and suck all the marrow of life, to live so sturdily and Spartan-like as to put to root all that was not life, to cut a broad swath and to shave close, to drive life into a corner and to reduce it to its lowest terms, and if it proved to be mean, why then to get the whole and genuine meanness of it and publish its meanness to the world. Or, if it were sublime, to know it by experience and to be able to give a true account of it in my next excursion," unquote. These words in that moment went into me like a knife because I recognized that I was living what was not life. And so I went off on a quest into my own personal kind of woods to front the essential facts of life. That is, to pay attention to what truly matters to me. Does this speak to you? Would you like to live more fully in the present? And what would that mean for you and for this congregation? If you were here last week, you know I spoke about gathering wisdom from the past. We looked at the many ways and places where this congregation has had meaningful learnings and experiences during the interim time. And on June 30th, I plan to talk about the future. And so it must be said that being present doesn't mean we have nothing to learn from the past or that we don't benefit from visioning the future. Indeed, author and psychotherapist Stephen J. Hendlin believes that ignoring the past and the future is actually a distortion of the intention of living in the present, because both past and future have value. He says that in Eastern thinking, the art and skill of resting in the present assumes that one has conquered the struggle with the incessantly chattering monkey mind that darts from past to present to future in a scattered and sometimes obsessive manner, unquote. So rather than ignoring them, I think that living in the now means that the past and future are just kind of less able to take up all that space in our minds. The space that we lose that can make it so difficult for us to fully experience what's right in front of us. And don't you love that turn of phrase? Resting in the present. Resting. Today is about the present. Literally, right now is about this very present moment. As Eckhart Tolle said, nothing has happened in the past. It happened in the now. Nothing will ever happen in the future. It will happen in the now. All you really need to do is accept this moment fully. You are then at ease in the here and now and at ease with yourself. Unquote. Resting in the present. And I wonder what it means for a community, this community, to rest in the present, to be fully present to the moment, to be mindful. And perhaps especially at this time when many of us are feeling big feelings. How do we be present to one another and to the well-being of others? Well, of course, many of the strategies that work for individuals can also work for a community. Practicing mindfulness together, paying attention, showing gratitude, trying to focus on just one thing at a time, offering and receiving positive social support, showing acceptance for what is, noticing and listening to what and who is around us. And I find myself thinking about the notion of aligning our collective mind with our collective or corporate body so that the two, mind and body, as a community, become as one in the present moment. I've never heard it expressed quite this way, but maybe this is one of the great values of gathering together on Sunday mornings or at any other time, because it allows us to align our collective mind and our collective body as one, which helps us, allows us to be fully present with and to one another. And I wonder if being fully present with and to one another might make it possible for us to be more vulnerable, to show our authentic selves to one another, to accept the authentic selves around us for who they are without judgment, to listen more carefully, and perhaps to even better notice when we're doing harm, or when we are feeling unseen, or when we're avoiding what is, and to feel things collectively. Let's just breathe into that for a moment, literally. Just take a few breaths and pay attention to this collective body. See if you can align your mind and maybe even your thoughts with others in the room, just to be present to and with each other. Accepting, receiving what is. Breathe. And as we breathe, let us remember the lesson from today's story and the wisdom of Leo Tolstoy. That remember that there's only one important time, and that time is now. The most important one is always the one you're with. And the most important thing to do is to do good for the one who is standing at your side. For these, my dear ones, are the answers to what is most important in this world. These are the answers to the question of what truly matters: to be present in the now with those we are with, to be kind and do good in the now for the ones beside us. And in this way, we both learn from the past and prepare for a better future for everyone. I return to some of Gretchen Haley's words, which we opened today's service. They're so beautiful. Surrender only to this life, this day, this hour, not because it does not constantly break your heart, but also because it beckons with beauty, startles with delight, if only we keep waking up. This is the gift we have been given, these body clothes, this heartbreak, this pulse, this breath, this light, these friends. This is what we've been given. These body clothes of community, these friends, this gift of one another. There's no need to worry or be anxious because we can set these things aside and just rest in the present together. For there is no life other than this one. As Mary Oliver said, sometimes I need only to stand wherever I am to be blessed. Sometimes we need only to stand or sit wherever we are in this moment with each other to be blessed. You are so blessed. May it be so now. Amen.
One way that UECW helps address human needs and advance social justice in our community is through our Split the Plate program. Each month, we give half of all undesignated offerings to a local nonprofit to help us live our Unitarian Universalist values and serve our community. Our Split the Plate partner for June is the Benedict Center, as suggested by Dr. John Muir. The Benedict Center is an interfaith nonprofit dedicated to helping women entangled in the criminal justice system find hope and lead safer, healthier lives. For nearly 50 years, they have assisted women through all stages of the justice process, including outreach to those in the street-based sex trade facing high levels of violence and exploitation. Criminal charges often exacerbate their vulnerability, making it harder for them to achieve stability. Diversion to the Benedict Center Sisters program offers these women support from public health systems, including Housing First initiatives and harm reduction services tailored to their specific needs, providing a more effective and compassionate alternative to traditional punitive measures. You can help support the Benedict Center right now, or you can go to the UUCW website Donate tab and select Split the Plate from the menu. Or text or mail your donation today using the information found here on the screen. Today, I thank you for your generosity to the Benedict Center. We will now gratefully receive your offering.
Please join me in the words of dedication found in your order of service and on the screen. To the work of this community, which is to ground ourselves in love and joy and to act for inclusion and justice, we dedicate ourselves, and these are offerings. Being present, loving what is, what wonderful aspirations. So before we depart, let's sing again. This time it's Answering the Call of Love, which is a joyful celebration of a choice to, in every moment, respond with love. It's number 1014, and you're invited to rise or to remain seated to sing with gusto.
The
remain standing for our benediction. This wonderful time for simply being together in the moment is coming to an end. You're invited to join hands as you're willing. Once more, take a moment to just be here, now, in such good company, stretched out across the room. Just allow yourselves to feel what you're feeling and experience what you're experiencing, whatever it is. Our closing words, slightly adapted, were written by Linda Barnes, suspended between. Suspended between all that was and all that might be. We often struggle to find this very moment, to live this very moment. So let us be with this moment and savor it. Let us relish this between time where past meets future. Let us harbor a faith that reminds us that right now, right here, is enough. Right now, right here, it's enough. You are enough. Amen, and blessed be. I invite you to return to your seats to enjoy the postlude.